right, hello everybody. I am here at Seagull Models. And in case you don't know, Seagull Models is here in Saigon, Vietnam. So yes, I took a trip halfway around the world to come visit Seagull Models. Well, actually I'm here for other reasons, but while I'm here I decided that to see if I could come visit the factory. And they said yes! So I had an amazing opportunity to come and see the manufacturing facilities of Seagull Models. And so you've seen a bunch of their models on my channel. So this is great to see how some of those models I've actually reviewed are being built. So without any further ado, let's go take a look inside. I was most certainly not in Kansas anymore as we drove up to Seagull Models facilities in northern Saigon. Hidden in a nondescript neighborhood was a sturdy gate that opened up into a large facility that also seemed unusually welcoming, and much larger than I had imagined. Visitors are immediately greeted with an entryway honoring the founders of the company. It's a very short walk into the core manufacturing facilities, where one of the first rooms I visited was packed full of large laser cutters. Nearly a dozen machines are put to use by staff cutting both balsa and plywood parts. As you can see, these machines are huge. I could tell these machines had and were seeing heavy use. I bet they buy laser tubes by the truckload. The main room was overwhelming, with endless stacks of model parts like ribs, bulkheads, and partially completed fuselages, all worked over by numerous employees. I was practically tripping over random airplane parts while marveling over my first experience in an RC model assembly line. There was a quiet determination in the employees' construction of various subcomponents. Groups of workers were dedicated to specific tasks like fuselage construction, wing assemblies, test fitting assemblies, painting, sealing, parts fitting, jigging and alignments, subcomponent assembly, literally hammering out the details, and hand finishing. I was impressed with the organization, skill, and attention to details exhibited by the staff, many of which have been with the company for decades. These were craftsmen that knew their jobs like the back of their hand. I noted the main facilities are clean, well lit, and roomy. Moving on to another section, we have the area where various wings are built. Again, the task is broken up into segments where one person builds the basic frame, then another does the sheeting and such. This requires great organization for endless stacks of parts that are assembled like a 3D jigsaw puzzle. Note that there are no plans or instruction manuals. Everyone knows their job by memory, though they do use assembly jigs for more complicated structures. And speaking of structures, they're all checked for straightness and fine alignment. The covering room. I saw plotters and cutters used to create patterns for the iron-on coverings. Several areas were teeming with workers covering all manners of parts, including some very large structures. Another area focused on painting and finishing vacuum form parts, along with attending to finer details of the final product, including this guy who needed a bit more height in order to add the pull strings to a large fuselage. Parts, and more parts were everywhere. Stacked, staged, pre-finished, sorted. It was all organized mayhem. You couldn't even walk down the hall without being inundated with model parts. Kits ready for shipping are packaged and staged in an area that has easy access for delivery trucks. Boxes are stacked floor to ceiling, awaiting to be shipped to customers worldwide. But we weren't done yet. A brief walk outside led to separate areas of the facility, like this separate assembly room, and this milling room where raw balsa is milled into sheets of various other stock. Balsa logs are cleaned up and then sliced into usable pieces, some of which are further cut into strips and such. Another area for processing fiberglass molds, where finished parts are then painted. Then the machine shop area where metal parts are stamped. I saw well-used lathes and both computer-controlled and manual. All kinds of metal parts were formed on site. All sorts of parts are milled and hand-finished. Fiberglass parts like control horns are fabricated on a computerized router, which can get a bit messy. Along with CNC milling machines, there was quite a bit of hand forming and hand assembly of various metal parts. Back inside for a bit of air conditioning relief, I saw a neat room recently added for additional parts packaging and component sorting. The planes hanging from the ceiling is a nice touch. A very well air-conditioned room was dedicated to computer-aided design of their models. It is filled with all sorts of memorabilia and reference materials. I even spotted a 3D printer for rapid prototyping. The CEO's office is the best office I have ever seen. A giant mural of models made by the company, and a giant section of floor space filled with assembled models. I was told they were there for customer support, easy reference. I approve. My visit had really good timing as they were inspecting two very new models before going into mass production. The first is a 40cc 82-inch span T28, which features working air brakes and neat offset hinged flaps. Then there was a 60cc 87-inch Corsair. It has tons of features like sequencing retract doors, retracting tail wheel, bomb drops, missiles, and much more. After a lunch of spaghetti and shrimp pizza, we headed outside where they cranked up the Corsair for some pre-flight tuning. They even let me wiggle the sticks in it a bit. I made these to see if they have any job openings. The next day, I met the team out at the local flying field, which was not quite as refined as I'm used to in stateside, but was pretty nice in its own way. So as you can see, I'm actually not at the factory anymore. I'm out at a flying field here in Vietnam. And this is really interesting to see what flying fields look like in other countries. And so there's actually a pretty good crowd of people out here. And so I'm going to kind of enjoy my time watching them fly. And with any luck, I might actually get to fly something myself, if they're nice enough to let this foreigner touch one of their airplanes. It was also very neat to see how model flying is done in such an exotic country as Vietnam. The flying field was no frills, but had a long, hard dirt runway, if a bit narrow. You had your usual mix of scale models and sport planes like this ugly stick, which looked to have a wheel issue, but they eventually got it sorted out. Unlike this Cussat racer. This little guy was learning how to prep a model for flight. I was really impressed with the variety of models from the local flyers, and how enjoying a relaxing weekend of flying is universal to modelers around the world, even with some less than stellar landings. One of Seagull Models' company pilots took an opportunity to show me how it's done with his very large Extra 540. Interestingly, all the models flown at the field were gasoline powered. I was told there was no glow and very few electrics in their club. To my surprise, they handed me the transmitter to the Extra and told me to have a go. This big fire-breathing beast was a lot of fun, if a bit sensitive on the controls. Having brought it back in one piece, we took a lunch break of roasted duck, bread, and vegetables with fish sauce. After which, the new prototype Corsair was brought out and made flight ready. Oh, did I mention they wanted me to fly it too? After a bit of trimming, I was really able to wring her out and test the flight envelope. To say I was nervous flying their only example was an understatement. But I brought her home successfully with a bit of a bouncy landing. Not my best work. It's a very new model still undergoing design tweaks. But I was pretty happy with how it flew, and they seemed very receptive of my thoughts and suggestions to make to future production models. Oh, I had one more flight on a local flyer's ugly stick, which its engines decided to conk out on me just as I took off. Yeah, I couldn't quite make it back to the field, but the damage was minimal and I wasn't deported for causing an international incident. So, thanks for watching, and I will see you later. Hi, thanks for watching. Please take a look at the video description below for special HobbyView sales and discounts. Your purchases help support this channel. Happy modeling!